Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to plunge into a world where words have power. I mean, literal magical power.
Yeah, that's right.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into R.F. Kuang's Babel, or The Necessity of Violence.
A historical fantasy that reimagines 19th century Oxford as this nexus of magic and translation.
Oxford. With magic. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Oh, it's more than just a few spells and potions. Kuang really makes us rethink the foundations of empire and the role of language in all of it.
So, set the scene for us. What's the deal with this magical Oxford?
It's the 1830s. The British Empire is at its peak, and nestled among those dreaming spires is Babel, the Royal Institute of Translation.
Babel, huh? Sounds kind of ominous.
Well, it's actually the heart of Britain's global dominance.
Okay, so how does translation equal global domination?
Because they've discovered silverworking. It's the secret art where you engrave silver bars with specific word pairs. Think of it like linguistic equations that produce magical effects.
Whoa, hold on. You're telling me they're doing magic with grammar?
Exactly. These match pairs, as they call them, can power anything from trams to, well, even amplify the beauty of a flower.
So, like, a perfectly matched phrase in, say, Mandarin and English could create a self-filling teapot.
You got it. And that seemingly simple teapot is a great example of how Kuang subtly reveals the complexities of her magic system.
Yeah, I'm listening.
The strength of the magic is directly tied to how closely related the languages in the match pair are historically.
So as languages evolve and drift apart, the magic weakens. That's a powerful metaphor for how cultures and politics shift over time.
Precisely. And Kuang uses this to expose the mechanics of colonialism. The British Empire's hunger for new languages isn't just about communication.
They need those linguistic resources to fuel their magic and, by extension, their military supremacy.
It's a brilliant way to show the darker side of expansion and the often unseen forces driving it.
Okay, so we've got this magical system and a powerful empire. Now, where does our protagonist fit in?
At the center of it all is Robin Swift.
Robin Swift.
Yeah, he starts as this bright young boy living in poverty in Canton, and then he gets plucked from that life and brought to London by a mysterious Professor Lovell.
From Canton to London, that's a huge leap.
Imagine the culture shock. He goes from poverty to a life of luxury, but it's also incredibly isolating.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Suddenly having to navigate a completely different world.
It's a constant struggle for Robin. Every English word he learns chips away at his Chinese heritage.
It's not just the language, though, right? He has to adapt to these new social expectations, even things as simple as table manners.
Exactly. It's like he's being forced to erase his past to fit in.
This internal conflict is what makes Robin so fascinating. He's excelling in his studies, mastering all these languages, but there's this growing unease, almost like a phantom limb where his cultural roots used to be.
Exactly. He's constantly grappling with this tug of war between assimilation and identity, asking those big questions. What does it mean to belong? What sacrifices do you make for acceptance? Can you ever truly shed your past?
And as Robin delves deeper into Babel, he starts to see that it's not the gleaming beacon of knowledge it appears to be.
Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers of a beautiful onion only to find it's rotten at the core. Babel is a tool of empire, plain and simple. They're churning out magical technology to strengthen British dominance.
Not just pretty lights and self-filling teapots, but tools of control and oppression.
And the deeper Robin goes, the more disturbing the truth becomes. Silverworking is being used to maintain colonial control, from military advantages to, most horrifyingly, facilitating the slave trade.
So it's not just progress for the sake of progress. This advancement is built on exploitation.
Right. And then we meet Griffin, Robin's half-brother, who represents a direct challenge to Babel's authority.
So there's resistance brewing.
Griffin leads a secret society called Hermes, a group of disillusioned translators who want to dismantle the system from within.
And suddenly Robin's caught in the middle. He owes everything to Babel, but he can't ignore the injustice it perpetuates.
This is where the book gets really interesting. Kuang captures that inner struggle of someone torn between loyalty and conscience.
It forces you to ask yourself those tough questions about complicity and privilege. How do you reconcile personal gain with systemic suffering?
And it only gets more complicated when Robin is sent back to Canton, a place he tried so hard to forget. That trip becomes the ultimate turning point, shattering any remaining illusions he had about Babel.
And that's where we'll leave Robin for now, on the precipice of a life-altering decision. But listeners, I want to hear from you. What's resonating with you so far? What questions are popping up for you? Hold on to those thoughts as we continue our deep dive into the arcane history of Babel.
Okay, so we left Robin reeling from that revelation about his mother's death. He can't just stand by and watch Babel continue its exploitation.
It's a pivotal moment for him, right? He chooses to align himself with the Hermes Society. Talk about a leap of faith.
It's a huge decision. Turning against the very institution that shaped his life gave him a future. But it shows just how much Robin has grown.
It's like he's finally breaking free from Babel's influence, embracing the role of rebel, even though it comes with huge risks.
Absolutely. And I love how Hermes fights back. They don't just resort to violence.
They use language itself as a weapon.
Yeah, turning the tool of their oppression into a tool for resistance. It's brilliant. Like those pamphlets they spread throughout London.
They're carefully crafted arguments, exposing Babel's hypocrisy, making people question the whole system.
Right. And they use silverworking, too, disrupting the city's infrastructure. Remember those misfiring translation enchantments?
Oh yeah, turning those fancy dinner parties into total chaos. A subtle but effective way to show how much the elite rely on silverwork.
Exactly. They're exposing the cracks in the empire's facade, making people ask, is this prosperity really worth it?
Is it built on the backs of others, on stolen languages and cultures?
Powerful questions, and those questions are starting to ripple through London. Hermes is becoming a real thorn in Babel's side.
Babel created these brilliant minds, these skilled translators, and now those same minds are turning against them.
It's poetic justice, isn't it? And we see Robin really coming into his own here.
He's not that timid kid anymore. He's actively involved in Hermes' operations.
Deciphering codes, crafting subversive messages, even using his knowledge of silverworking to help the cause.
There's that scene where he creates a counter-enchantment, like a linguistic firewall, to protect a Hermes safe house. He's basically hacking the magic system.
So cool. It shows his growth, not just as a translator, but as a strategist, a rebel. But of course, this rebellion comes at a price.
He's constantly in danger, risking his life, and not just his own. The more they learn, the more they realize just how deep Babel's influence goes.
It's everywhere. Every aspect of British society is tied to silverworking, which makes their fight even more delicate.
One wrong move could plunge the entire country into chaos.
And that leads to that big debate within Hermes. Should they destroy the resonance rods?
The source of all silverworking in England. A risky move, to say the least.
I mean, it would cripple the empire, but it would also affect ordinary people who rely on the technology.
It's a moral dilemma with no easy answers. Do the ends justify the means? How much collateral damage is acceptable?
Yeah, those questions become even more urgent after the Westminster Bridge collapse.
Such a tragic loss of life, a stark reminder that their actions have real-world consequences.
And it shows how far the empire is willing to go to maintain control. They'll use violence against their own people without hesitation.
It pushes Robin to a breaking point. He sees the empire's brutality firsthand, their disregard for anyone deemed disposable.
It mirrors the evolution of the rebellion itself. What started as a fight for justice is now a desperate struggle for survival.
And that brings us to the final act of defiance, the Siege of Babel. They're trapped inside the very institution they've sworn to destroy.
And they make a choice, a drastic choice that will change everything.
Okay, so we're back with Robin and the Hermes Society. Holed up inside Babel, surrounded by enemies. Things are looking pretty dire.
Yeah, it's a tense situation. The grandeur of Babel, all that knowledge and history now just feels heavy, suffocating even.
And they're carrying the weight of their losses too. So many friends, comrades, gone.
Yeah, that grief is palpable. But it's mixed with this fierce determination, this refusal to give up.
They're still fighting for what they believe in, no matter the cost.
And then, just when you think things can't get worse, we have that betrayal. Letty, their trusted friend, turns out to be a double agent.
Ugh, that moment was heartbreaking. Talk about a punch to the gut.
It really highlights the complexity of the situation, right? It's not just black and white, good versus evil.
Letty's motivations are tangled up in family loyalty, fear, maybe even a twisted sense of duty.
It makes you question everything. Who can you trust when the lines are so blurred?
And the consequences are devastating. Rami's death hits Robin hard. It fuels his rage, his desire to bring Babel down no matter what.
He's not just fighting for a cause anymore. He's fighting for revenge, for justice for those who've been lost.
And that leads to their most daring plan yet. They decide to destroy Babel. Literally, bring the whole tower down.
It's a powerful statement. Using their knowledge of silverworking, their mastery of language, to dismantle the very symbol of their oppression.
But it's also incredibly risky. Who knows what will happen when the tower falls?
It could plunge England into chaos, disrupt everything. But at this point, they're willing to take that chance.
They're desperate. They've seen the Empire's brutality firsthand, and they know there's no turning back.
So they put their plan into action, weaving linguistic spells, manipulating silverwork to weaken the tower's foundations.
It's a race against time, a desperate gamble to break free from Babel's control. And as the tower starts to crumble,
It's not just Hermes fighting anymore. Ordinary people, the ones who've been exploited by the Empire, they rise up too.
it's this incredible wave of defiance. Strikes, protests, people taking to the streets. The whole system starts to unravel.
The power of collective action. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can ignite. Change is possible.
But amidst the triumph, the chaos, there's a sense of loss, too. Babel, for all its flaws, was a place of learning, a testament to the power of language.
It's a bittersweet victory, a reminder that even in revolution, there are casualties, things that can't be recovered.
And as the dust settles, we see Victoire, one of the surviving members of Hermes, fleeing the wreckage, carrying the weight of their struggle.
She represents that enduring spirit of resistance, the fight for justice, for a better world. It doesn't end with the fall of Babel.
Babel is a powerful story. It makes you think about the ways language shapes our world, our identities, even our understanding of power.
It challenges us to question the systems we live in, to recognize the potential for both creation and destruction that exists within language.
And that's what we try to do here on The Deep Dive, to delve into these complex stories, to spark conversation, to make you think.
So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those conversations going.
Until next time, fellow deep divers,